Okay, everybody. Thank you very much. Good evening. Right. Parasha Vayeitzei. Actually been an interesting day today because I had this wedding next door also. So I've been sitting at the wedding. The photographer came over to me and he says, I don't know how you do this. I said, I don't know how you do what? He says, I don't know how you just show up, take out a sefer, whilst there's music blaring in the background and people pressing food in the foreground, and you are just preparing a shir. I said, you know what? I don't get how you push through throngs and throngs of people to get all the pictures that you get at a chasna. Everybody has their thing that they know how to do, their thing that they don't know how to do. And it's not so, there are many different people that have many different talents. And you can't sort of just say, oh, well, this guy has a talent of this. Everybody's got talents. And just because you don't have my talent, I don't have your talent either. Everybody's different and everybody has different things. So I'd like to look at one or two different things tonight, starting with the following. Maybe we'll start with one thing even before that, because that's the introduction. So we will start with, we're in Parasha Vayeitzei. If you have an Art Scroll Chumash, you will be looking at page 146. Thank you, Roger. If you're an Art Scroll Chumash, you'll be looking at page 146. And on page 146, we will be at Sheni. That is chapter 28. Verse number, it's chapter 29, verse 1. Sorry, chapter 29, verse 1. Thank you, Michael. Okay, so chapter 29, verse 1. Vayeitzei Yaakov Raglov, and Yaakov carried his feet, literally speaking. And he went to the land of Bnei Kedem. How does he translate it in English? So Jacob, what does it say? Lifted his feet, right? Jacob lifted his feet. That's what it said. Jacob lifted, and he made his way to the land in the east. So it's interesting to say when a lot of the Mefarshim speak about this, a lot of the commentators speak about the fact that he lifted his feet. What does it mean he lifted his feet? Usually your feet lift you, right? I don't talk about what keeps what afloat. What stands on what? Am I standing on my legs or my legs are standing on me? Who's lifting whom? I once heard somebody say, you ever heard this expression? I've grown, now my feet reach the floor. Yeah, that's a stupid thing to say. Of course you reach the floor. Right? No matter how tall you are, you reach the floor. You can't lift you can't raise your feet. So he says, the Mefarshim explain over there that what it means is when it says Vayeitzei Yaakov Raglov, Yaakov raised his feet, he meant to say that look at what happened immediately prior to this. Immediately prior to this, Yaakov Avinu has just run away from his brother Esav. And he's actually in a lot of trouble. He doesn't know what he's going to do. He doesn't know how things are going to work out. He doesn't know what's going to be. It's a very worrying situation for Yaakov Avinu. He's run away. His brother wants to kill him. His brother's not exactly the nicest fellow around. And he's not sure what the outcome of this whole thing is going to be. He's run away without any money. He doesn't have a penny to his name. He couldn't run away with money. So he's got nothing, as you see in the Parasha, because Lavan comes and says, so where's the cash? Where's the money? What do you come with? And he says, I've come with nothing. He says, well, all right. Well, if you want to stay by me, then you're going to have to pay for rent. You have to do something. I'm not just putting you up for free. Talk about family. Yeah? With family like that, who needs friends? Yeah, but that's what it is. So he's got nothing. And he's very worried. He's saying to himself, how am I going to manage this? How am I going to make sure that this works out fine? Says HaKadosh Baruch Hu in a dream to him, don't worry, I am with you, I am watching you, I'm taking care of you, everything's going to be fine, you don't have to worry about anything. And Yaakov Avinu is tremendously lifted by that. We'd all be lifted by that. Imagine if God came to you in a dream and said to you, Leon, all's going to be well. You'd be like, I'm invincible. That's what you feel almost. You become almost invincible because all is well. And so Yaakov now, he says, Vayeitzei Yaakov Raglov. Yaakov raises his feet. It means that Yaakov Avinu was on such a high that it wasn't his feet that were carrying him. Until now, his feet were carrying him. Until now, he felt, what am I going to do? How am I going to manage this?
The lowest point, your sort of lowest spiritual point to your feet, aren't they?
It could be that's another thing to mention as well, but I don't know if that was exactly what he meant with that comment. There's an extra dimension in that, and that is the feet. There's an upper body and a lower body. The Hasidim, when they daven, what do Hasidim wear when they daven? A gartel. Why do they wear a gartel? You know what a gatla is, by the way? Does anybody know what a gatla is? A gatla is a little belt that they wear. You see that little belt they get Hasidim when start davening? They're always, it splits the upper half of the body and the lower half of the body. The holier part of the body and the lower, the more base part of the body, more animalistic part of the body. And that might be also, Yaakov raised his legs, meaning Yaakov is saying, now I am in a situation where my spirituality can actually carry my physicality. That's one way of understanding it. But the other way of understanding it is just that Yaakov Avinu felt heavy. Have you ever walked somewhere and you've really not wanted to go somewhere and you have this very heavy feeling about you? Yeah? And you're just like, oh, I can't believe I'm going there. I can't believe I'm going there. Right? There's certain things, everybody has their things that they like or they dislike. You know, I recently, I don't know what it is and I don't know why it is, but we recently had a birthday party by us in our house. And I just don't enjoy birthday parties. Let's tell you. I sat down afterwards. I don't, the whole juvenile feeling about it. All right, so if it's a little kid, but sometimes it's for an adult, and everybody's like, "Hey, yay, happy birthday to you," and you're all like, you're 75 years old. You're not 3. Please, spare me. Everybody, I'm making a wish. 1, 2, 3. All 6 of them in one go. I'm like, yes. You've grown up. You are big enough to blow out 6 candles. I'm very, very impressed. Then you start playing Pass the Parcel.
You mean 75, don't
Pardon?
you? mean 75, don't you?
At 75?
Candles.
No, they had only 6. We can't afford 75 candles. You start playing Pass the Parcel or something. Like, at one point or another. So my wife said to me, please do me a favor. Don't just sit there with that glum face. You don't want to be here. Don't come. But don't ruin the atmosphere for everybody else. Saying that like, happy birthday to you. Oh, look, she blew out the candles. Yay!
How old was the birthday person? Was it
over 70.
Oh, over 70.
Yeah, it's over 70. This was a 70 over. Yeah, but we do them for kids also. When you're doing them for kids, okay, so you get into, your kid's 5 years old. He's all excited about blowing out the candles. I'm good. You know what? I understand that. But at one point or another, you draw the line, and so you sit there and you're really glum. It's not a good idea. Don't do that. Somebody comes to your house, they're joining you for a party, you're making them a party, be nice about it. Just do it, whether you like it or whether you don't like it. Sometimes we drag our legs. That's the lashon that people use that language. Oh, they had to drag their legs. Drag your feet. Yeah? What do you mean you drag your feet? It means I don't want to go there and I got to drag my feet. This is the opposite of dragging my feet. I schlep my feet somewhere.
Like say drag your feet with no enthusiasm for something as well.
Correct, exactly. So this is the opposite of no enthusiasm. But that's what we were saying is that the Yaakov Avinu felt the opposite of that. He felt lifted. He felt ready to go. He was just like, I'm going to go and zoom. I'm just going to do it. Yeah. So that was that's the first bit. That's it. And that's something that's an interesting thing. And it makes for a very interesting discussion, this whole idea of being excited or not being excited about what you do. Because let's say, for example, yesterday I had a shir. I spoke last week about giving shirim in German. I gave another shir in German yesterday. And this was a shir given actually to some teenagers all around Germany and Austria. It was very nice. I do it in my office. You can put on your computer. And it's amazing, these virtual meetings that you can do now. And you can meet with people from all around.
Skype.
Pardon?
Skype.
So there's another software. It's called Zoom. If you want to look it up online, it's called Zoom, and it's a meeting software that you can use, and you create a meeting, and everybody joins in the meeting, and it's very, very good, because what you basically do is you join all together at this meeting, and I give the share, and I got little boxes all around my computer showing me all the different people. Some people actually showed me their face. Some people don't really want to show their face, which is fine. You can keep your video screen off, and everybody's got a microphone. And I'm giving share, and different people can ask questions, and different people can come in. I mean, it's really interesting. I wonder even if we did a Zoom share by us in shul, if people would dial into that. It might be worth investigating. Might be worth looking into. Do you know what I mean? People don't have to be here in person, but you can have a shir. Sometimes people feel, for example, they don't want to come to shir because they don't like the people that are there. Not that they don't like. Sorry, let me rephrase that. They don't feel part of a crowd. They don't. Yeah, but I think the point is the fact they don't feel comfortable is because they don't feel part of a crowd. There's a certain crowd that comes, and you're not part of that crowd. You feel awkward. Like, why am I coming? What am I doing here this year? right? Whereas if you give people the ability to sit in their own home, you don't have to feel awkward. You're a little square on the screen. And if you want to do, you can turn off the video. Nobody even has to know what you could be sitting in your dressing gown. You don't have to be wearing anything to be able to sit on the chair. You have to be like all dressed up and make yourself up and come to shul. So it might be worth trying. And one of the people said to me the following. He asked me this question. He says, I spoke about Shabbos, and after speaking about Shabbos, he says, I know it's got nothing to do with anything. Can I ask you a question anyway? I said, all right, go on. We got 2 minutes. He says, let me ask you. I want to know, what's better? Leon, you've asked me this question before. What's better? Is it better to daven once every 2 days, but to really mean it? Or is it better to daven 3 times a day and... you just go through the motions. I think we didn't have the conversation so much. I think the conversation was more about minyan or davening on your own. That was the way we had. But some people say, well, you have to come to minyan. I don't enjoy davening in minyan. Minyan's too fast. There's too many people talking. There's this issue, that issue. I like to daven at my own pace. I don't want to daven like this. Yeah? Hey, Reb David, nice to see you. That's my brother-in-law. Yeah? And I'm very proud. My brother-in-law comes and watches me. So, you're sitting there, and he asked me this question. And I said to him, look, this is for the last minute and a half of this year. That's too complicated. I can't really give you an answer that's satisfactory, that's going to take, give you what you need in that short space of time. However, I will deal with it next week, and I wrote it down. I will deal with it next week. And okay, we'll deal with the question as it comes. But it's an interesting question, because the question here is a question of, when I feel enthusiastic about something, when I feel that I want to do something, that is when you have a great feeling about it. And then you go out and you do it, and you come back and you go, that was good. If you feel you want to daven, let's say once every 2 days, you want to daven, and your daven is going to take you half an hour instead of taking 2 hours or whatever it is. And you daven and you finish, you go, oh, that was good. Right? Whereas if you have to come to shul 3 times a day, sometimes you're dragging your feet and you go, oh, Mariv, okay, Amen. I finished. Okay. Until you realize some guy is bashing your chest, and you realize it was yourself saying Slachlono. Yeah? Because all these things that you do and you don't realize, you're totally spaced out. So we have over here, Yaakov carries his legs with him. It means that Yaakov Avinu was really, really excited about what he was doing. He felt, and if you want, in Yiddishkeit, I'm not saying that this is the only way to go, because it's very, very difficult. It's not so straightforward. But in Yiddishkeit, it is very important to feel attracted to what you're doing. Because if you don't, it lacks, yes, okay, you've done it. But it lacks any heart. It lacks any feeling. It lacks any meaning. All right, so I've come to davening. Oh, you done someone a favor? What are you doing? Right? On the other hand, I will mention something else, and then we'll move on from this point. And the other point is, sometimes things go really easy. And the fact that something goes really easy is not necessarily a good sign. Right? Do you know why? Yeah, go on.
Because there's no interaction. Between you and the whatever you're doing.
Okay. I meant more in spirituality. Let's say, for example, there's a famous story that they tell. There was somebody who was putting together money. He was trying to get money for a yeshiva. And then about halfway or 3/4 of the way through, he just shelved the whole project. I said, that's strange. Why do you shelve that project? He says, listen, I was collecting money. I know collecting money for a good cause is like pulling teeth. Have you ever tried collecting money for a cause? You come to people and you say, I've got a great cause. There's a woman who's on her own. She's an almana, sadly, and she doesn't have any money. And people go, here's a $5. And then you come around. I actually have a picture of it. I don't remember if I still have it on my phone. I might have it on my phone. It would take me too long to find. I had a picture. We went to Sainsbury's. And at Sainsbury's, we had I don't know if I'll find it even. It's a true picture that I found. It's way down. It's way far down. They were making a collection for animals and for people, and they had 2 trolleys, and each one of these trolleys people filled up with their items, whatever it might be. And let me just see if I can find it. It's just an amazing
the
thing.
Animal one had more.
The animal one was like 3 times as full as the one for people. It was very, very scary. Stop. Okay, it's stop, forget it. I won't find it. It doesn't make a difference. But you had 2 trolleys. You have a trolley here and a trolley there. Save the animals, dog shelter. Oof. Homeless people. Yeah.
Homeless people.
It was a good cause. Do you mean?
Because people think animals never can't help themselves. They can't
Yes.
go out and get a job. And
Yeah.
when people think of homeless, they don't really think how
Which is
they're
scroungers,
doing that.
yeah.
They think it's because they're lazy and they don't want to work. It's
Yeah.
not necessarily the case.
Not necessarily. With not only addicts, but it's Miriam Mintz told me.
Mental health.
Do you know? Yeah, mental health. Miriam Mintz, David Mintz's wife. So she said she dealt with. I spoke about PTSD. I spoke about the army not last week, the week before. We spoke about the army and PTSD in the sermon. And she came over to me afterwards and she said to me, says, "You know how true this is. There are people that are in the army. It's very, very sad. They're in the army and they come out of the army and they're so used to being dictated to exactly what to do." They cannot get their life out. They cannot get their life together again. When they leave the army, they're like walking around without any direction. And they end up, or the stress is getting them down and addiction. And then just because of having this post-traumatic stress, whatever it might be, it really, really has a tremendous effect. And a lot of homeless people that you see, sadly, are ex-veterans. They're not ex-veterans, they're veterans, army veterans or ex-army. One or the other, but it can be an ex-veteran. Was an ex-veteran, an ex-army person. Yeah,
Somebody enjoyed to forget.
An ex-veteran, right?
You hear that awful phrase. They don't want to work.
No, it's an awful. No. Look, there are certain people that are scrounging that don't want to work. But that's But a lot of these people, I'm not talking the ones on. A lot of these people, they're not people who don't want to work. They're not scroungers. These are people that have fallen on very difficult times. As was said before, they have issues with mental health. They have other issues. There's tremendous issues going on in the background. There's tremendous baggage going on in the background. And to just say they're lazy, it's just misunderstanding and misconstruing it. Right? So I don't know who they were collecting. I can't remember. If I find the picture, I'll send it out to you later. But I don't remember exactly how it happened or what it was. But it was interesting to see that the dog shelter, because you know what? And it's interesting. There's often no resistance. The Vayeitzei doesn't put up any resistance to anything that is not a mitzvah. Right? So it's nice to be nice to dogs. I'm not saying we have to be, chas v'sholom, you cannot kick a dog, you cannot hurt a dog. Animals there's a din called tzar b'alei. There's something called hurting an animal or mistreating an animal, and it's not vera in the Torah to mistreat an animal. So there's no questions asked that you cannot mistreat an animal. However, giving money to a dog shelter, it's easy, right? Right? It is easy. Because there's no Vayeitzei telling you, don't give to, you see the little puppy and and it speaks to you and you go, oh, look how cute, right? Whereas when it comes to people, the Vayeitzei kicks in and says, does he really need the money? Come on, like you said. Is he scrounging? Is he, pardon?
We end up judging, which we shouldn't.
Nobody judges a dog.
No.
Nobody turns around and says, that dog should have been better to his owner. He deserves to be in that impound. You mean? It's nothing to do with it. You never say that. But with people, we start making that kind of thing. We start making a judgment call. And therefore, he said, I was collecting for this yeshiva, I was collecting for this cause, and money was just pouring in. And I realized when money was just pouring in, there's something wrong. There must be something wrong. If the Vayeitzei said, no matter where I go, you want to check 10,000 pounds here, 100,000 pounds there. If everything's just pouring in, there must be something wrong. The Vayeitzei wouldn't allow me to just come up with everything easily. There always has to be a struggle. So I'm seeing if there's no struggle whatsoever to get the money. I've never collected money for a good cause and not struggled doing it. And if I am not struggling, there must be something wrong over here. Okay, so it's interesting. So on the one hand, there's the alacrity is a very, very good thing. On the other hand, sometimes if you don't feel something holding you back, if everything goes too easy, you should be a little bit wary of that also. If in your Yiddishkeit things go too easy, that doesn't make sense. How many people wake up in the morning and go, yes, davening, It's not something that most people do. Now, there are people that do it, God forbid, I'm not saying. Yeah? But lots of people, or most people, wouldn't wake up like that. Whereas if you're going on holiday, you wake up in the morning and go, I'm going on holiday. What time's your flight? 4 hours from now. It doesn't matter. We're ready. We're roaring to go. Yeah? Come davening 5 minutes before, you're like, it takes me only 3 minutes to get to shul. I can sleep another 2 minutes. Yeah? Yeah, everything's like last minute, last second. That's just how it goes. You have to be worried. That's one thing. Okay, let's move on. And now we come to a very strange story, because the Torah tells us the following story. Vayar, and Yaakov sees, we are in verse 2 now, in chapter 29, verse 2. Vayar, and he sees, V'hinei be'er basada, and behold, there is a well in the field. V'hinei sham shlosha eretzon oftzim aleo, and there are 3 shepherds that are there. And Kimin abe'ai yashku adarim, from that well, all the different shepherds would get their water. And there was a very large rock at the top of this be'er, at the top of this well. So before I say I come to the main thing that I want to speak about, Rav Hirsch mentioned something very interesting, and I think it's a great comment that he makes. In general, something that's private, we lock up, right? You lock your house every night, don't you? Yeah? Why? It's private. It's my house. I don't want a gun oven coming in, God forbid, stealing things from me. As I'm sure, Chas v'Shalom, I wouldn't want it anybody happen to you either. Right? How about something that's public? With a lot of public things, we're a lot more lenient because it's public. Why are we locking something public? Yeah? Okay, so some things need security. Let's say a shul. Right? We need security because sadly there are people out there that want to harm us, and we don't want to be harmed, so we have to have security around the shul. But in reality, if there were no anti-Semites, let's imagine a wonderful world with no anti-Semites. Would we have a lock on the door here?
Yes.
Why?
Valuable sector.
Okay, fine. Right, I hear that.
Laptops, whatever.
Okay.
Like an art gallery, you lock it up. It's public. You lock it up because there's valuable things.
Yeah, okay.
Libraries. Right?
Yeah. So, but yeah, I hear that. Okay. What Rav Hirsch says over here is that this first verse tells you something about the city, and we'll have this more than one place in Bereshis. If they're locking up the public well, right? Let's say if it was a public toilet and you can't get in. If they're locking up the public toilet, what are they worried of? People are going to walk away with a sink? I mean, come on, it's a public toilet. Just leave it. Sometimes you come into these things and you say to yourself, why do you have to vandalize them? The public is using them. What are you doing that for? Such a stupid, inconsiderate thing to do to other people, right? To vandalize public property. Yeah, and yet people do it. I used to find it very, very bothersome to watch the bins burn in Eretz Yisrael. I used to sometimes you walk past our house, and somebody had thought it was funny to set light to our bin. And whilst it cost us nothing because the area, the municipality, supplied us with another bin, I'm like, what did you gain by burning our bin? Like, what was that all about? Yay, fire! How old are you? Yeah? Is a screw loose? Why do you have to burn a bin? Right? So here also, this is public property. You'd expect public property to be easily accessible to the public. And yet, it was not. Why was it not easily accessible to the public?
They're trying to be nice to everybody.
Pardon?
They're trying to be nice to everybody.
Okay, interesting. But Rav Hirsch says something a little bit different. He says, not that they're frightened of being nice to everybody. They're frightened of people taking advantage. Right? Yeah.
Taking too much water.
Taking too much. So I'll give you an example. Yeah. You go to Holland. In Holland, there are these bikes. You take a bike, you ride with it, you put it back.
In Manchester as well.
Yeah, in Manchester, you got to pay for them. You got to give a credit card, etc., etc.
Yeah. They're free though.
In Holland, I think they're free. In Holland, they're free, and I think in Holland also it works on an honor system. Yeah. As my friend said to me, if they brought this to New York, certain people would spend 3 days laughing before they started stealing the bikes. Yeah? It would take them 3 days to stop laughing about the stupidity of the municipality to give them free bikes for all. Yeah? And they would trash the bikes. Well, in certain places, why would you trash the bikes? They're public property. You know, these bikes can take you from A to B. Just put it back. Take it, bring it back later. I mean, why would you do something so silly? Why would you do something so selfish?
Because you're getting back at a society that hasn't given you a fair deal.
Okay, that might very well be. I think a lot of people feel that.
And that helps.
No, it doesn't help. But it's no, but it comes from anger. But at
That
least
makes it right.
no, that's not what Roger said.
No.
Roger's not saying, he's not saying why it's right, but Roger's explaining it. You know, no more bikes, no more cycle lanes. Very good. Yeah. That's what Stuart Foster says. He's always against
Right
the
on.
cycling people. Riding on, Stuart. Thank you for that. But you're right. There are people that are angry. I think that there is very often a feeling, and that is people from more deprived areas, regardless of ethnicity, people from more deprived areas would engage in this sort of thing. And it is almost, as you said, getting back at a society that's not given them a fair chance. Yeah, true.
Isn't it a bit too sophisticated, though?
Pardon?
Isn't it too sophisticated, though? Isn't
Which
it a
bit?
case about, just sort of taking it and getting back at society and all? Don't you think it's so easy in a public place, whereas to break into a house is...
But why would you do it? Well,
Because
what do you
it's-
gain by taking that bike and wrecking the bike?
Yeah.
People are riding these bikes to get back and forth to work for free. It's fantastic.
I know.
You know, why are you doing something that's so damaging for no reason? So
so
Roger
easy,
says
isn't it?
because they're angry.
Mm.
There's an internal anger over there, and it's very interesting that what you mentioned. It is very interesting. I wonder if sociologically, sociologists might actually agree with exactly what you're saying. That maybe they might not realize, but subconsciously there's an anger over there against society because they've been given a raw deal. Because social mobility is part of what we discuss very often, and that people feel that they cannot move up in life. I've been given a life. My parents, not me, these people feel like, my parents were addicts, or my parents, I never was able to have a full education, and I was never able to go to school properly, and I didn't get the A levels I could, and he, grew up with a silver spoon in his mouth, and that's why he's got this very, very easy life, and me, who grew up in Salford 6, has a very, very difficult. I hear that, not that it makes it right, but I can understand where that's coming from. But here there was a distrust. That's a very important thing. It's a very telling thing about a place. When public things, there's a distrust between everybody. We don't trust the public. Somehow in Amsterdam, we can trust the public, and the public is being very, very responsible with your bikes. You take one, you ride it, you put it back. Here, it's all about, if you haven't put in your credit card and put down a certain amount of money, that if the bike goes missing, it's coming off your credit card, you are not touching those bikes, because the city knows they'll go in a second otherwise. They'll be damaged, they'll be destroyed, etc., etc. So there has to be a way that we can lock them down and be on top of these bikes so that nobody takes them. And that's what happens over here in Aram, in Haran. They are worried about the well. They are worried that people will come and will take advantage. And therefore they say, we need to lock this place up, because otherwise people will steal. People will take, whether they're supposed to or they're not supposed to take. They'll take more than they deserve. We can't have that. So let's lock it up. Okay? We have this similarly, by the way. Avram Avinu it's not in last week's Parasha, but it's in Parashas Vayera. In Parashas Vayera, Avimelech, we read about Avimelech, who was the king of the Plishtim, of the Philistines, takes Sarah. And then HaKadosh Baruch Hu comes to him at night and he says to him, my friend, you're going to die for taking this woman. She is somebody else's wife. He says, but I didn't do anything wrong. I've not come near her. I've not touched her. I've not done anything. How dare you punish me? That's what Avimelech says to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And then we see later on, Rashi says, he says to Avram Avinu, Avimelech says to Avram Avinu, why did you do such a thing? Why would you do this to us? Why would you lie to me? And he says, because I figured there was no fear of God in this place. And what Rashi explains over there is because the first question, imagine what the first question is. You walk in the house, or you're new to town. Imagine if you're new to shul. Shalom Aleichem, who's that pretty girl with you? Yeah? What would you say to the person that said Shalom Aleichem to you like that the first time you came into shul? What would you think of that person? Yeah.
How much dowry has she got?
Pardon?
How much dowry has she got?
Well, no, that's what I'm saying. But but you think to yourself, but if it's your wife, right? If it's your wife and somebody came over to you and said Shalom Aleichem and immediately made a compliment about your wife. Shalom Aleichem. Wow, she's pretty. Who's she? What does that say about the person that's saying hello to you? Not a lot. Yeah. Well, it does say a lot, but nothing positive, right? It doesn't say anything positive about it. Yeah. I had a fella come over to me once at a kiddush. I couldn't believe he did that. A guy came over to me at a kiddush, and I was talking, and there was another woman. I won't mention who it was, but another woman standing directly opposite on the other side of the table. And the fellow says to me, "Whew, she's got a great figure." And I thought to myself, you might think that, and you might even be right, but why in the world would you walk over to the rabbi of the community and say that to the rabbi? Where's your common sense? I don't know. I said to myself, where's your common sense? You know, whether she is pretty or not, whether, you know, and I say to people, once or twice it's come up, and I say, you know, somebody says to me something about a woman, and I said to him, I said, I don't comment about other women. It's somebody else's wife, and if it's not somebody else's wife, in the future it'll be somebody else's wife, or it's a single woman. Why am I making comments about women? How they look, how they're dressed, what the figure is like? It's none of your business. Keep out. Right? It's just wrong. But to make it to a rabbi, you know, it's just, I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe that the guy didn't figure out that there was anything wrong with that. Yeah? Whatever, it's social finesse sometimes we call it. Lack of social finesse. But that's it. Amram Avinu walks into Pelishtim and everybody goes, Shalom Aleichem. Who is that pretty woman? Yeah? And Avram Avinu says, okay, I get the point. I already know what kind of people live in this town. Yeah? It's just the way you are welcomed, the way people speak to you from the beginning says a lot about them. If you come into a shul and nobody welcomes you, then you say, this is an unfriendly place, right? Now, it might be a very friendly shul, but if your first impression was, I walked in and nobody gave me a talis, nobody gave me a siddur, nobody showed me where to sit, nobody said Shalom Aleichem to me, you'd feel, what is this place, right? A lot of people won't give it a second chance. I walked into shul, not one person. And I've heard from somebody who said, I've been to communities. They condemned an entire community. Says, I went to Toronto. I went to New York. I went to Miami. You know, fill in the community that it was. I went there. I davened in a shul. Not one person came over and said Shalom Aleichem to me. Not one. What kind of community is that? Yeah? That's how people see it. People see the welcome. They see what the first impression is very, very important. Here, the first impression Avraham Avinu gets is what? These are people that are very into women. Yeah, they must be, because if the first thing they say to me is, who is that good-looking woman? Not, where are you from? What's your name? Do you have a place to sleep? Do you need something to eat? Can we help you at all? Hey, look who's here. Right, I've sussed you out already. Yeah, because otherwise, I mean, even if you said it at a later date, it might not be the most tactful thing to say. But at least it's not the first sentence. But in the first sentence you say to someone is, hello, how are you? Who's this lovely woman with you? You've said something about yourself, right? Says Rav Hirsch, we've said something here about Charan also. They don't trust each other. They don't have a basic level of trust for each other, and that's why anything that's public, they lock it up. So that's how we start. Yeah? Now, it's sad we live in such a situation also where there is no public trust. So that's what we have to do. Yeah? There's no public trust, which is why you said we have valuables in the shul. We have to lock our shul. Of course we have to lock our shul. Chas v'shalom, a Sefer Torah will go missing. Chas v'shalom, some of the silver will go missing. Chas v'shalom, some of the siddurim will go missing. Yeah? There's enough reason to want to lock the shul. Yeah?
Well, all the new cushions.
What? Pardon?
All the new cushions.
All the new cushions, absolutely. Thanks, Michael. Yeah.
For sure.
But it is a society we live in. Sadly, we live in a society where in every place in the world it's the same, but sadly we live in a society where you cannot take anything for granted. If I don't lock my door at night, then I am at risk. End of story. Right? That's the society we live in. Okay, now we move on to the last bit that I wanted to speak about, so we went a bit of a tangent on that one, and that is we have these three people around the Be'er, and the Torah tells you then all the different shepherds used to make their way there, and they used to take the stone off altogether and give the sheep to drink, and then they used to put the stone back. And Yaakov turns to these people and he says, hello, where are you from? And they say, we're from Haran. He says, have you ever heard of Lavan? He says, yeah, we've heard of him. How's he doing? He's doing okay. And look, behold, there's his daughter Rachel. She's coming with the sheep. Says Yaakov to them, You know, it's pretty early for you guys to be calling it a day. What's with you guys? Go on, get moving. To which they say, oh, we can't really get moving because everybody needs to come together. We all need to be in one place together to be able to take the stone off, to be able to give our sheep to drink. That's the story. Many of the commentaries are puzzled. They're saying he comes, he finds at a well, there's 3 people there, he has this odd conversation with them. What's the symbolism in this entire story? It seems a very strange story for the Torah to tell us that Yaakov makes it to the well, and you just say Yaakov makes it to the well, and he finds Rachel, end of story. Who cares about the conversation? We spent a lot of time even on this conversation. How are you? We're fine. How are you? Fine. Where are you from? Haran. Okay, great. Have you heard a guy called Lavan? Yes, we have. Who cares? Right? So within each bit, there are different things that we deal with. But Malbim, there's a very interesting commentary on the Chumash known as the Malbim. The Malbim was written between 100 and 150, about 150 years ago. And he's very into the style of what things are written in the Chumash, and it's a very, very brilliant commentary. I think when we used to have in the Navi Shir, which I'd love to be able to bring back one day, when we used to have in the Navi Shir, there, because the Malbim really gives you a great overview of the of what's going on and many of the basic questions. Malbim always, he starts off with the next few verses. Here's 5 or 6 basic questions. Then he uses the verse and he uses the words in the verse to answer all the questions, and it's often very, very brilliant. It's a great commentary. Says Malbim, there are lots of different things going on over here, and he tells you a story from the Gemara. This is a story from the Gemara that comes from a famous Gemara. It's known as Agadata. Agadata means sort of lighter Gemara. Yeah, it's not halachic Gemara, it's more stories, etc., etc. And some of these stories that you read come across, I'm sorry to say it this way, very strange. And the reason they come across strange is because they're not to be taken literally, but rather to be understood figuratively. That there are very deep concepts that are being passed on over here. There's actually a book called The Juggler and the King. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. It's written by it's the Gaon's interpretation, the Gaon of Vilna's interpretation on a lot of these different stories. So the Gaon of Vilna, I'm sorry, not the Gaon of Vilna. So over here, Malbim says the following. He tells you a story, and this is a story that's brought in the Gemara, and with this story, he explains this, maybe not the conversation, but the symbolism that's going on over here. Says Malbim the following. There's a Gemara which is known as Save Deve Atuna. Save, like Saba, the old man, of Atuna. Atuna is Athens. And there were these philosophical discussions that were had between the Saba Deve Atuna, the elders of Athens, and in this instance, it was Rabbi Yeshua. And they've asked him all sorts of questions, and he gives back all sorts of answers. And the questions sound cryptic, the answers are cryptic, and the whole thing sounds a little bit strange. So, the following question was asked to Rabbi Yeshua by the elders of Athens. Now we know Athens, in the time of Greece, the Athenians, is that the correct word?
Yeah, indeed.
Thank you. Okay, I knew there'd be somebody here that would actually know the answer to that question. The people of Athens, Athenians, they were known as highly intelligent people. They were the pinnacle of civilization at the time. And the people of Athens, hi Phil. Yeah. The people of Athens are asking these questions, and they are now receiving answers to these questions. So the people of Athens asked Rabbi Yeshua the following question. They say to him, if there is a well in the field, how can we take that well and bring it into the city? Yeah? To which Rabbi Yeshua answers back to them, make strings made out of inferior quality flour, and with it you'll bring it in. Okay?
Yes.
Do you understand? Yeah, make strings made from flour or dough made out of inferior quality. You take very, very bad flour, very, very bad dough, you make strings out of it, and you're able to then bring it in. Now, if I ask you, does the question or the answer make any sense to you? You'd obviously say no, right? And the Gemara records this. So you read this Gemara and you say to yourself, what a ridiculous conversation. What's this conversation all about? What are they saying even? Yeah. Explains the Malbim a beautiful thing. He says, the God's giving to people and God's giving to the entire world is like a well. God is like the well that springs forth with water, right? The city, what do we refer to when we speak about the city? Which city would you refer to? Yerushalayim. Yeah, the city. But you want, when God is with us, when we are in exile, God is with us. When we had the temple, God was in Jerusalem. So that means that when we were exiled, where did that be'er, where did that wellspring of giving to humanity go? It left the city and it made its way into the field, away from. Now, how many shepherds are there over here? There are 3 shepherds. How many Golios, how many exiles are there where the Jewish people were exiled from their land that we speak about? 3. The Babylonian exile, which is 1.
We're in the third, aren't we?
And we're in the 3rd one now. There was a 4th exile. What's the 4th exile? The Greek exile. However, when the Greeks invaded Israel, we never left. Right? We never left Israel. So the field, the well never left the field. They never made it to the field, but 3 times they made it to the field. So he says, you want to now take that well. You want to take HaKadosh Baruch Hu and take him from the field, meaning being out of the city, being away from Yerushalayim, and bring him back to Yerushalayim. How will you be able to do that? Right? Says, listen to this. This is brilliant. Says Rabbi Yoshua, you take subin, you take inferior flour. You know what inferior flour does? When you use inferior flour, what's it going to make? Inferior bread and inferior dough. Yeah? Because it's very, very crummy. It comes apart. It doesn't stick together. If you can take the Jewish people that don't stick together, that have sinas chinam, that have baseless hatred between each other, that don't respect each other, you can take all those factions and you can create strings out of them. You can bring them together and you can unite them. With that, you can bring God back from the field into the city, right? Now, you turn around and you look at that and you say to yourself, wow, that's a deep conversation. But it's not a ridiculous conversation. How do you move a well? What do you think it is? Like, it's like you're moving a building. How do you move a well from one place to another? The well's here. It's not going to be there. You can't just take the well and move it with you. And he says, well, what do? You take a flour and you make strings out of flour and you pull it. Okay. Right? But when you see the meaning, the deeper meaning behind it, that's a brilliance. Yeah? That's already a brilliant thing. He says God is in the field. God is not home, so to speak. He's not able to be in Yerushalayim. How can we make sure that God can return back to Jerusalem? The way to do it is by coming together. Even the different factions, the inferior flour comes together and you make a string out of it, you're able to pull God back in. How beautiful. Says the Malbim, that is what's going on over here as well. There are those 3 shepherds that are in the Golus, and they have this be'er. They have this well, but there's a very big stone on the well. God can't give his shefa. He cannot give his abundance like he wants to because of the Yetzer Hara, because of the disunity amongst people. And we need to wait until what happens. So he says to them, how are we going to get this stone off? Do you know what they say to him? Do you know how you're going to get this stone off? When all the shepherds come, when all the people come and we come together, the Jewish people come together and show some unity, then we can remove that stone. Together we'll be able to remove the stone. Together we'll be able to remove that thing that's keeping us from HaKadosh Baruch Hu that's keeping God from giving us his abundance. We come to get, and then they will open it up, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu will make his way back. And he says, and then comes Yaakov, and Yaakov does it for us. Because the third temple will be built in the zechus, in the merit of Yaakov Avinu. So you read this story and you say to yourself, it's such a strange story. 3 shepherds, weird conversations, big stones. But if you understand that, you can look much deeper. You can look underneath the surface and find that there's so much more to be said about it. There's so much more to be understood about it. If we realize that it is so much deeper, then we can, we take a small step forward in realizing what a gift we have in the Chumash. Okay, thank you very much for everybody who joined me here. Thank you very much who joined me live. Please do share if you get a chance.